There we go.
Yo, we're live.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
So I do want to take a poll with everybody because yesterday was a weird episode, and I actually want to do more of those where we just talk about other things besides our ticker symbols, you know. And I think all the guys here appreciated it. Carlos isn't here, but I'm sure he appreciated it. Chris did. And we should make a point to do this maybe like once a week, or at least twice a week, that we talk about something else. Because look, we don't have to keep talking about tickers all the time. There's things around tickers that affect our lives, right? So I'd like to see a poll, though. Can you do a quick poll? Like, should we talk about other things besides just our stock picks, something like that, and see what the people say?
I'm pretty sure everyone agreed. I was looking at the comment section this morning. There was a lot of people that that found some value in it. I mean, that's the big thing, right? You want to try to humanize investing. I think that's one of the key mistakes that people make when they invest, is that they think of everything from just a plain cookie cutter lens of just profit and loss, rather than taking into consideration like certain things that are going on with your family, your personal finance situation, like experiences that you may have had in the past that may make you a better investor or make you a worse investor, and how do you mitigate for that? So like, you guys know I have trauma from losing money, so now you guys know, like, oh, Chris comes from a place where one of the reasons why he's a little bit more conservative with the way he invests is because he's had that traumatic experience. So what does that mean? That means that I don't have nearly the amount of risk tolerance that Vitaly does. If Vitaly could hold a stock for 5 years, and if it goes down 60%, he was like, whatever, it's okay. Like
99%.
99%.
I've been down. I've been down in the gutter, but I've learned by being down in the gutter that I have to hold if I believe in something. So
exactly,
it comes from like holding and winning at the end. If I lost at the end, I would agree with you that if I actually lost everything, which I thought I did for a long time, as we talked about in a different podcast with crypto, I thought I ruined my family for 4 years, basically. So, but one other thing, Chris, your mic, is it on? Are you talking through your computer audio?
Oh, hold on a second. Let me fix that. Yeah. In
order to invest, the thing is, there's a mindset, and I think a lot of these channels overlook the fact that there's a mindset to investing, and it takes a long time to develop that mindset. Whether it's your Chris in terms of the trepidation and always trying to hedge, or my mindset to like maybe just buy what you believe in and just hold it, forget about everything else that happens. But still, it takes a long time to get there. And I'm not sure the people in the comments, some of them are older. I know Johnny's been investing for a long time. I see him, but I'm not sure where everybody is at. Maybe they're brand new investors. That's what I think most people are. I could be wrong, though. I could be wrong.
Well, here's the other thing. It takes a mindset, and it also takes someone with experience to teach the mindset. And I don't have that experience, but we got 3 motherfuckers that do, right? And that's what I think makes the podcast cool, because I can ask the sort of naivete questions, get it from you guys, and the other finance YouTubers that are out there, maybe some of them have the experience, but a lot of them also, they're still in their 20s and 30s. You guys are pushing at 40, which means you actually have the experience, which I think makes it valuable as well. So
I feel a lot of the other channels, the one thing they have, Carlos, your mic, I hear.
I muted Carlos. I muted you. Got to fix the box.
A lot of YouTubers that we watched, or I mean, I don't even watch. Honestly, I've not been watching finance YouTube because it sucks so bad. I've basically been ignoring it. I'm onto music videos and filmmaking and everything else. How to do a deck, how to build a deck by yourself, like because the finance YouTube community, if we're to talk about it for a second, really sucks in the fact that they're so politicized and they're so determined in their own point of view. What makes this podcast good, if I was to pat ourselves on the back, is that we literally have like 4 different points of view, and we're not trying to pitch one thing. Like when we were Tesla Bulls, me and Carlos, you guys were the opposite, you know? So I'm not saying one is right or wrong, but just to hear an opposite point of view on YouTube, I don't think finance YouTubers do this.
Yes, I agree.
Is my mic all screwed up?
Yes, it's very screwed up.
What does it sound like?
It just sounds like staticness on. Wait, now it sounds better. Talk.
I think it was the cable.
Okay, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah, I
All
was going to say we have 3 different points of view, and I'm right.
Yes. All right.
4?
So once a week.
3 points of view and 1 correct one.
Yeah, 3 wrong points of view, and I'm right.
Yeah.
So once a week from now on, we will try, if we have something to talk about, to do more of a life junkies that intersects with investing versus just pure ticker symbols. Now, we have someone who is a special guest today. This is our first guest. Chris, you're muted. You were saying
No, I was going to say, I think we should just let it happen organically, right?
Yes, I agree.
Instead of trying to do like a special episode every so often, it's just like, you know what? I'm sure in our conversations, this topics will come up. It's just moderating ourselves to the point where we can't let it become the only thing we talk about in the entire episode. Otherwise,
100%.
Yeah.
Well, to be
Just
honest,
so everybody knows, Chris bullies us as much offline as he's doing right now.
well,
as
he
much
keeps,
of a
he
bully.
keeps pushing these puts on us. So,
He's
Like, guys, you haven't been through my trauma.
me
You don't
for
get it.
months.
guys, you didn't invest in Weight Watchers. What's wrong with you?
It's like, guys, I'm
no, but
getting fat
to
off
be
Weight
honest,
Watchers.
honestly, like sometimes I don't look forward to coming onto the podcast because I don't want to talk about a ticker. Okay,
Yeah.
I have 4 things I believe in, and I've said them multiple times already, and I don't get a new ticker every single week. Okay,
Yeah.
so if we're gonna talk about like the same, just picking tickers out of our butt, like that's just not interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I also
agree.
think it's different that we're not in a bull market, right? This is a bear market. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different how you navigate it, and it's a lot more psychological. I think people are just dealing with a lot more pain right now and doubt. So these kinds of conversations just naturally come up because you start to doubt a lot. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah,
I'm not doubting anything.
Now, to me, this is a
all right,
kangaroo.
I'm gonna
market.
mute all of you motherfuckers because I'm trying to introduce a fucking guest, and all 3 of you have so much fucking to say. Like, shut the fuck up and let me just introduce this guest. Goodness gracious! Like, Phil is backstage and he's like, "Wow, these guys don't give a shit about me. I'm the guest, and these guys keep talking." Like, yes, once a week we'll not talk about tickers. Yes, Vitaly. Like, yes, we got it. We're moving on. Goodness fucking gracious! All right. Had to go off. See, it's nice to go off on you guys, and you guys can't talk.
The guest can wait. It's okay for the guest to wait 10 minutes.
No, but we're not. It's been 7 minutes. Why is the guest waiting 7 minutes?
3 more minutes. Phil, you're waiting 3 more.
Okay, continue to mute you guys. All right, I'm bringing on Phil. The Wi-Fi's acting a little weird here, but we are talking about Tesla. All right, we've got a lot to talk about Tesla. Carlos, I'm going to bring him on stage, and Carlos, you can introduce who your buddy is, and then we'll get into it.
Yep. Yo, player.
What's up?
What's up, man? Just lower your camera so otherwise people will think you're a metaverse avatar. Show them you have legs.
You want to see my sexy physique? Is that what's up?
So we talked a little bit about this yesterday. Phil's been a friend of mine for more than half my life. He's one of the main reasons why I got into investing back in the day in 2000, 2001, 99, maybe.
I think it's earlier than that. Yeah.
A long time. And it was a bassist in my band. We've just collaborated on a bunch of different things. And we've talked, we've kept in touch throughout the years, and we've definitely had differences of opinions when it comes to investing. And I got to say, Phil turned me on to some stocks that were some of my greatest performers. I think Regeneron comes to mind, that we were buying that like $1 or $2 and shot up to $400 or $500. It's some of that. And then I was able to return the favor with Tesla and crypto, which you were really anti-Tesla for a while. And
I was anti-crypto too.
Yeah. And then came around. So
But I've still been trying to get you into those options.
I know.
Phil, I got heavy into the options. I don't know if you
Vitaly went ham.
At least somebody got on board. We got to get him on board now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I buy the options, but I'm not selling options like you guys are. I just don't have the time available to do what you guys do.
He doesn't have the time available to make money, Phil.
Yeah, I'm too busy making money.
There's always time to make money.
But one of the reasons why I thought it'd be interesting about bringing Phil on is Phil, like Vitaly and I, if you watch our channel, you see we do a lot of technical analysis. We come at the market from a certain perspective. Phil is like the opposite of that. He's sort of like an outlier. He has really good instincts. And I mean, on several occasions, he's hit me up and been like, yo, if you got time, Smile Direct is going to remember that one. It was like Smile Direct's going to pop 25% Friday. I'm like, how do you know this? And he's like, just trust me. And then it happens. And I'm like, did you look at charts? He's like, fuck charts. I'm like, oh shit. So I think he's a really interesting perspective, especially just to see. I'd like to see him and Chris have a conversation about some things too. So take it away, Phil. Give us a little history on you, and let us know how you're doing in the market.
I mean, well, the market's been trading sideways. Everybody pretty much knows that. History about me, it's pretty much like you said. I started investing back in early 90s, back when, before, stocks were online. I'm talking paper certificates.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I just, little by little, I've been learning more about it. And now I've been doing it for, 25, 30 years already. So it's like second nature to me at this point. And for what you were saying before, I've never been a technical guy. I see it more as like a roulette wheel, looking at some of those charts. Just because something did something in the past, to me, it doesn't necessarily indicate that it's going to do the same thing in the future. So I look at where it is now, where I think it's going to go. And sometimes I'll look at certain things from charts, but I don't take those as, heavy indicators to look at, 30 days and 50-day moving averages and all of that stuff.
But then what would you say is the biggest indicator that gives you conviction in the stocks that you buy? And what determines how much of your portfolio you allocate that position to?
Well, for me, it's research on if, something is coming up that a company is going to be doing something in particular.
Can you give an example? Can you give an example of like a previous home run?
Let me see. Well, I can give you one that we were supposed to be discussing today. I bought Netflix back when it tanked to, like around $100 and something. So I loaded up on it then, just because
I was telling these guys it's undervalued. I was saying this
on a technical.
He was saying
level,
that as he bought one share, by the way.
5 shares. 5 shares.
He bought
one for each finger. I just looked at something like that and I'm like, it's still the leader of the pack. It's still the best at what they do, best of breed. And like Vitaly said, it's undervalued. So I was like, I think that this is a bargain. And I'm also in the mindset like Vitaly, where I don't mind buying something and holding it for a long time if I have to.
How'd you feel about Ackman selling out of it? Do you think he made a mistake there, or?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, he sold out at 300 and something, so he's still technically, he can buy back in at the same price he sold at.
He's doing all right, yeah.
Although I do think that, getting into Netflix a little bit, I do think that it's going to take a hit over the next period. I think there's going to be another revolution when they start doing like password sharing, when they start getting rid of that. I think there's going to be a revolution and people are going to start a whole outrage like they did with that whole Quickster thing.
That's not going to happen.
I think that they're going to lose a lot of subscribers from it, and then people will slowly.
I have an article that's counter to that. They've been testing that program in Canada. They said they've actually noticed that revenues have increased. But then again, Americans are different, right? I'll send you the link in the chat.
I mean, the people who, does Netflix want the people who can't afford now? What is it, $6 for the ad model? What are they charging? $6?
It's like
$5? Say it again.
$6.99, I think.
I mean, honestly, if you can't pay $7 a month for, and you're willing to watch ads, of course, then I don't think Netflix wants you. So I think that's okay. They're willing to lose that customer.
Well, first of all, I'm not willing to watch ads. But that's
no, not you. You're going to pay the $20, just like I'm paying the $20. That's okay. We don't care about that.
They even said that they're expecting some short-term backlash from this. They said that they're expecting, some retreat from subscribers from this during the earnings call. And they think long-term, like I said, they think long-term that it'll go, back to where it was. But I think immediately, and I think over the next quarter, they're going to have some backlash from this.
If they do, markets and the public in general has a really short memory. Eventually, they'll just forget about it, I think, and that just becomes the way it is. It's like every time. Remember back in the day when Netflix would increase the price like by $1, there was all this backlash on canceling, and
nobody canceled. The latest show will come out. Everybody will hop back on.
Amit,
I want to transition to Tesla.
Before you do that, can I share one thing about Netflix?
Quickly, yes, because the name of this podcast is called Tesla. If you want to hear about Tesla,
Tesla's smart. Dude,
you guys got to get better.
We never. If you want us to talk about Tesla, you have to name the podcast like Metaverse to the moon, and then
you should have named it Netflix.
About Tesla all day.
I'm trying to moderate. We got an expert on Tesla here, and we're talking about a shitty media company. Like,
take a look. Do you guys see this? Is this shitty?
Yeah.
So this is their investor letter. I actually took the time finally to read someone's investor letter. Because if I believe in a company, I don't read every single investor letter, but I wanted to see what Netflix had to say. This was the most interesting stat they had. That first of all, for Amit in the US, YouTube is watched more than Netflix. So congratulations, Amit. All right. Netflix at 7%, YouTube is at 8%. The total online streaming, all of this, is 34%. So what is the other, 70%, 65%? What is it? It's linear TV, basically. Okay. So Netflix has a massive growth ahead of it that they can easily double, triple from here, in my opinion. That I don't think you have to be worried about the actual growth trajectory of Netflix over the long term. Who knows about the quarter? Phil, you might be right. Next quarter, it might go down.
Just a gut feeling on that one.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But it looks like the only
come.
people, hold on, looks like the only people who are going to suffer is basically linear TV. That's who's going to suffer in all this.
I have something, I'll just put it out there. I think over the long term, I think Paramount Global outperforms Netflix.
Wow.
From the starting point that we are right now. Because Netflix
take.
is already super valued. They've got a lot of consumers already. Paramount Global is doing everything right in order to gain subscribers. The content that they have is actually worth watching. And there's a lot of backlash that Netflix is getting from certain content that they've been creating, where Paramount Global is kind of switching it up a little bit and being a lot more like moderate with their views. And the content that I'm seeing on Paramount Global is, in my opinion, is actually better than what some of the stuff that's happening in Netflix. But Netflix is, so I would say definitely take a look at Paramount Global, all the IP that they have, all the hits that they have, also the movies division that they have, because they're also like Top Gun that came from Paramount Global, generated how many billion
too.
Huh? Yeah, it's a Buffett stock too. I would say if you were looking at a company that you want to invest in, I'd look at Paramount Global over Netflix. But that's me based on the
they also have a tremendous library. They have a tremendous
one thing I have to ask about that. Have you ever tried actually using Paramount's app?
Yeah, I will say that their UI is garbage. Their content is good, but here's the thing, Phil. You can improve your UI faster than you can make better content, right? Content is like a gamble, where at least Paramount is doing that part right. And I do agree with you. Like I have Paramount Global on my TV, and there have been multiple times where it's crashed. But that's like one of those things that they're going to be addressing over the next few years, because this is something that's still new to them. They're still getting into microservices. They're still getting into this entire field. The other thing is that I really like about them is their subscriber count is going up like crazy, because they're partnering with all these other secondary companies that have been pushing Paramount Global, like T-Mobile. Like if you have T-Mobile, if you pay a little bit, T-Mobile subsidize some of the costs, you'll get a free subscription.
They already do that for Netflix. T-Mobile does that for Netflix.
No, Netflix does half price. I have that too. But what I'm trying to say is Paramount Global has a much bigger opportunity to grab a larger market share and monetize their IP and their content rather than Netflix does. I mean, but that, like I said, I don't know if you guys have seen anything on Paramount Global that you guys like. Like my favorite shows right now, I would say, is Tulsa King.
That's a great show. That's a great show.
That's a good show. The Yellowstone franchise is amazing, and all the secondaries that they've had. No, I don't know. I like Yellowstone, but there's plenty more. They have a lot of cult favorites too, like a lot of the stuff that was on CBS, like Survivor and stuff like that. That's all on there as well. NCIS also on there. Right? These are brands that are like all over the country that people watch. So if you were asking me, I'm a cord cutter. If I want to get away from the cord, do I want Netflix or do I want Paramount Global? I'd probably get Paramount Global.
The problem is my kids don't want Paramount Global.
They want Disney.
They want Netflix, actually. They actually don't like Disney. Well, once you're a certain age, once you're a certain age, well, there's still a lot of kids content, but Disney is like the same thing over and over, and they don't want to watch Star Wars anymore. They're sick of it. They won't watch them. They won't watch season 3 of The Mandalorian, even though they like the first one. So they're done with it. It's the same thing over and over. Netflix has a way to just keep giving you and feeding you properly over and over something new. Or if it's something the same, they watch some of the same stuff, but they just keep on it. It's in a loop. The things that they watch in the loop.
Personally, I think that Netflix has the better content. I think Paramount
I agree with
have some good content. They definitely do. For me right now, I just can't get past the fact, and I know that they can fix the app, but what good is the good content if you can't watch it? It constantly freezes. But they do have some great content. There's no denying that.
It is an easier thing to fix, though. You have to accept
absolutely.
that, you know.
No. You guys are mistaken that you think.
All right, we're moving on.
No, hold on. You think this is a technology race? This is not. If Netflix is a media company, if that's what they are currently, Netflix is winning the media business, not Paramount Global. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
even with their good stuff.
Hold on. Can you pull up that link that I sent you in the chat? The one about Amazon surpassed Netflix in US subscriber.
Pull up some stats on Tesla because that's like what actually matters. But, yes, Prime Video has replaced Netflix as the #1 streaming service in the U.S. according to long-term industry trackers. See, I don't even watch Prime, so I don't know how.
See, okay, so how are they counting this? Because I was a Prime subscriber before they had Prime Video. Mm-hmm. Now they have Prime Video, so they consider me a Prime Video subscriber, or am I just a Prime subscriber who has video now?
What do you mean? No, it comes with your Prime. It comes.
No, I understand, but I'm saying I would subscribe to Prime even if they didn't have the video, as I was doing for the last decade. Okay. So how are they counting me, who's been subscribed to them for 10 years without the Prime Video?
There's plenty of zombies.
Everybody has Prime, are they automatically a subscriber?
They're already a Prime Video subscriber, so that might be a little bit juiced.
It's just like the same thing happened I think a couple of days ago with Spotify. That now they're giving you access to the music libraries and they're coming out. It's part of the account. Now look,
it's not the same.
It's not saying everybody that has Prime is going to Amazon to watch video content, but it's saying that it is available to them. And look, there's got to be a certain percentage of Netflix subscribers that are zombies. Like I have Netflix, but honestly, I can't remember the last time I personally watched it. It's just there.
When's the last time you watched Prime Video?
I don't watch much TV outside of that.
Well, there you go. So you're not a good study. You're not a good case then.
But what I'm saying is there's people like me too that just have these zombie accounts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I have Paramount. It's a zombie account.
Right. Okay.
So all right, Tesla.
Are we allowed to move on to Tesla now?
Wait, one more thing about Netflix.
You can watch Netflix in the Tesla. You can watch Netflix,
and that's another thing. The kids put on Netflix in the Tesla. They don't say, "Hey, can I get Paramount Global now?"
Yeah, I mean Netflix's brand is still unparalleled, but
unparalleled.
Okay.
It's funny. You can see Amit's detest for Netflix.
Like, well, no, the brand matters. He brought up an interesting thing, and Amit should know that brand matters, right? Tesla has a brand now that Uncle Jesse.
I'll make you 22 minutes. Honestly, a useless discussion.
Hold on, Uncle Jesse gave $5.50 Canadian. Is that like $2 American? What is it? But anyway. He gave $5.50. We're moving on to Tesla.
Right. Paid us just one thing. I'll make you guys a bet. Let's see what happens. Let's see who outperformed, Paramount Global or Netflix.
Well, no. Paramount could double tomorrow. Wager. Honestly, Paramount could double tomorrow. You could be right. Absolutely. Because I looked it up. It's $14 billion versus $143 billion. So it can have a good.
And they're look at their net income and how much revenue they're generating per quarter. So once you factor those things in, you know which one is the one that's undervalued and which one's actually growing at a faster pace.
By the way, I had more Paramount Global because of the dividends, not because of their growth story.
Yeah, they have a 4% dividend
portfolio. That's it.
So it's so funny. Why didn't you lead with that you have Paramount Global?
No, but who cares about that? The reason I have it is for the dividends. I don't have it because it's some super growth story that you're making out to be.
It can be both, right? It can have a dividend growth story and a capital appreciation story.
Okay, the reason we just went silent is because I was able to mute the stream because I'm the host. Now we are moving on to Tesla. Yes, this is the first podcast I've actually been done with these guys. Usually I love talking about Netflix and stuff. But because Tesla's tomorrow, we got to talk about Tesla. All right.
From now on, the stream is on Freelancer Finance, by the way. So I can mute.
You don't know how to moderate. All you know how to talk about is how you're up 20x and everyone else is a loser.
Oh, boy. What a jealous fuck you are. Holy shit.
That's why you muted right now. Fired. All right. Phil.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Tesla? When did you start investing in Tesla? And what do you think about earnings tomorrow for Tesla?
Carlos actually got me into Tesla. He was shouting from the rooftops about Tesla. And I was like, for a long time, I was in the same mindset as, everybody else was, where they're just another auto manufacturer. And he enlightened me on them, so to say, that they're not, that they're doing so many other things that ever since then, I bought Tesla. When did I buy it, Carlos? Do you remember? It was two splits ago. He's muted. I can't hear him.
Me and Carlos are talking about how you bought it too late.
I did.
Right. And then look, no, that was it was, I think it was right at after the big pump in January of 2020.
It was like two splits ago.
Yeah.
I started buying it, and ever since then, the things that they've been doing are just great, and I think that they're a great company. One thing that I will say that I noticed is that usually one thing that stood out to me about this particular earnings call, when they go into earnings, there's usually some form of a pump in the stock price, and I noticed that they didn't have it this time, and to me that seems a little suspicious.
What you're saying, leading up to earnings?
Yes. There's usually, people are buying the rumor and then selling the news. So it'll usually dump off, or anytime they have like some kind of an event, or right before that last investor day that they had, it just pumped up and pumped. And then when they had it, it dumped right off. And it's been pretty much flat the whole week. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm a little skeptical on this one, even though they've met and beat earnings in the past. I think it's like 8 or 9 quarters. I don't know.
But what would you attribute that to?
What? Attribute what?
The fact that we haven't seen the typical pump leading up to the earnings.
That maybe there's a chance they could miss.
Well, I think they released the numbers. If you look at Gary Black, they released the numbers, and he was pissed because they released numbers except for margins. And he's like, if Tesla thinks that we're going to accept their earnings without knowing what the gross margins are minus regulatory credits, he's like, they're crazy. It was like one of his most recent tweets. I don't know if you can pull that up a minute. Gary Black.
I mean, margins are definitely going to have to suffer. Wow. I mean, they gave discounts all over the world, not just the U.S., but in China too, to compete with the other manufacturers there. So I think their total sales volume is going to go up. Their margins might come down just a little bit, but I think it's a buying opportunity for those looking to buy if it does crash below 150. Because if you look at the price of lithium has gone down to like lower than 2001. I mean, not 2001, sorry, 2021 prices. I think it's at 18,000 something yuan per metric ton. Just look up the price of lithium. And so if you think about it this way, all the battery costs that they have, because they have floating rate contracts for the lithium that they utilize. So it's not like they have a fixed term contract where they have to pay a certain amount and offload it. They're actually floating rate. So as the price of lithium drops, their margins go up, because the biggest cost in their cars is the battery. Their battery packs, the new ones that Lathrop, those are all, of course, high margin products that already have fixed pricing on them. But that was during when lithium prices were higher. So they're getting almost like $2 million, I think, per megapack. And right now the price of lithium is going down. So if you think about it, the margin is almost expanding out. And that's a brand new business. So that has a lot of avenue for growth. So I think Tesla, if it does dump, I'm a buyer under 150.
I don't know if it'll dump that much, but I'm definitely holding some cash on the side.
If you look at it a couple of months ago, it was at 130 a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm. Didn't we get 101? Didn't we get down to like 100?
It might have been below that, but it was significantly below 150. So I don't think that, hitting 150 or below, if they really bombed it, would be completely out of, unreasonable.
Well, just to drill down into something you said, Chris, you said that they lowered the prices to compete with the other automakers. And like, even what is it in the chat? We have Luke. BYD is the only viable Tesla competitor. You think that they lowered prices because they wanted to run through more inventory, or because that's what they've stated? That's a stated goal of theirs, is to bring the prices down. And as their costs come down, they pass that on to the
market share. They're trying to capture as much market share as possible. Especially in the EV space, because if you can knock out your competitors' market share, that means that they have to work twice as hard. Right now, all these Chinese companies, they're getting their asses handed to them, man, because now they're stuck in a price war trying to fight that. The other thing is you have to make the price compelling enough for the average user to go and buy it. So right now, when you look at it from a financing perspective, the cost of financing a car has gone up dramatically than what it was last year. So how do you incentivize people to take on those loans, even though the loans are at a much higher APR? Well, the way you do it is by giving a sense of scarcity, right? By saying, look, we're going to give this discount, but it may not be around forever. So get the discount now. So anyone who was on the boat, on the fence about getting in on Tesla is more likely to buy into it right now. So they definitely, I don't think they would have lowered prices had the demand not dropped off. So I think there was definitely a demand problem, no matter what anyone says. Because if there wasn't a demand problem, lowering the prices just because you're a good guy, that's not how business works. You know,
it's not about lowering the prices because we're a good guy. Their mission, the overall mission, is to get these EVs into as many customers as possible. And Elon, from what I understand, has been quoted as even saying he'll sell the cars at cost, because they have a unique opportunity to further monetize those people after the fact. They could sell you advanced FSD, advanced autopilot for $5,000. Boom. That's like 90% profit. They could do 15,000. That's profit. They could get you on the infotainment, right? They could get you on like little performance boost and stuff like that. What I'm curious about is the fact that, if you watched Investor Day, they completely redesigned how they're going to build vehicles from this point on. And they didn't have to, like they already had industry leading margins. The fact that they're doing that tells me that we don't know how much they've been able to drive costs down since last quarter. We don't know any of the efficiencies that they've gained. So it's quite possible that even with these price drops, they're still north of 24% in profit margins. It's possible. I'm really curious to see how much they've driven the cost of the vehicles down. And if I'm right and they were able to drive that down, I don't think anyone's looking for that. I don't think anyone.
Can you share that screen just to show what the issue is, why the stock is probably not doing well? In terms of profit, Tesla's expected to report adjusted net income of $3.03 billion. Sounds great. $1 billion less than last quarter and $700 million less than a year ago. So
the first quarter is usually bad for auto sales.
No, but the point is, if you're investing in Tesla, you're just expecting 50%. We talked about this multiple times.
Yeah, but they said 50%. They said 50% average. They didn't say every quarter is going to be or year over year. They said over a long period of time, the average growth. If you look at
but I'm telling you what Wall Street is looking at this and saying, we don't think you can do this without lowering your costs, the price of the car way down, which means your profit margins will drop below 20%, which is a problem. You see that as a problem, right? I'm not saying the long term for us. I believe in Tesla 100%. I have no problem holding my shares, just like I've been holding for the last 4 or 5 years. No issue. But in the interim, absolutely, this can go down.
But this is where I think the lowering the cost of manufacturing the vehicle comes into play. If they do absorb some profit, some margin compressions in a quarter, say, to flood the market and get them out there, now they can get further economies of scale. Subsequent quarters will benefit from those, right? If they're able to they had a record quarter in terms of.
Well, that's the thing. If this is the age old question: are you investing for the long term or the short term? Because in the short term, the people that are short-term in nature, they see the margin compression and the year-over-year net income decline, they'll probably sell, right? I don't know how many people are in Tesla for that purpose, but they will sell. Now, if you're a long-term oriented person and you see the short-term people thinking like a short-term person, that's your opportunity to buy in and hold long-term, right? So if your valuation is like, okay, I think Tesla can get to X, Y, and Z in 5 years, 10 years, if the short-term people want to get out, let them get out. Fuck it. Buy their shares on the cheap like we did when it was $100.
Yeah.
But I did it with options. So I ended up doing the one thing I hope that I really, really don't like talking about options, but I'll say it anyway, just to get it off my chest.
Why don't you like talking about options? Just curious.
That's like Phil's fucking favorite thing.
Yeah, no. The reason I love options, I could do options all day, but I don't like talking about it in a public forum because I don't want people to follow into options, because the mechanics of options, if you don't understand it, you can get burned very heavily. Like there was a person who reached out to me on Twitter and said, someone said, oh yeah, I sold a whole bunch of puts on this one company. And I was like, what do you mean sell puts? Like, oh, isn't that good? I'm like, whoa, no. That's, you are liable.
Whoa. You're supposed to buy them.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. But the thing is, the concept didn't get into them. Like right now, I could talk to somebody about like credit spreads, right? But the thing is, like the average user does not know how to do a credit spread, how to do a 3-legged credit spread where you have let's say a covered stock position.
Bro, right? Chris, a 3-legged credit spread is you just take your 3 credit cards out and you spread them out on the fucking.
This is what I'm working with,
dude. If Fuddfucker wants to follow you, but if Fuddfucker wants to follow you to these credit spreads, let him do it. It's his choice. That's not your choice,
right? And you have to.
No, Vitaly, Chris actually cares about people. That's the difference. Okay. So
yeah, but the thing is, if he
gives advice on his credit spreads, by the way, just FYI.
But if you're hesitant to give your information based on the lowest common denominator of someone that's going to blindly follow you into the trade, you're not providing value to the other responsible traders. the other responsible investors. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying you have an obligation to do that, but if your goal is to provide value, then hey, man.
For me, I think most people, they should do index investing. And if they don't want to do index investing, they want to take the chance on investing in individual names, that's fine. But for most people, if you don't understand the mechanics of how options work, don't get in. Like, here's an example, something that Amit, you said today. You're like, oh, should I buy calls or puts on Tesla going into earnings? And I'm glad Footbucker actually replied to you and said, no, you'll get crushed on the IV because the premiums that you'll pay.
Bro, hold on. Yeah. All right. 264 people are about to make fun of me, bro. I don't know what the fuck IV is. I was like, what?
He's like,
why is he as number 4?
He's
what
like,
is
IP, that's on the internet,
I was just
right?
like, I believe. I was like, IV, I'm fine. I don't need to go to the hospital. I don't need to be plugged up to an IV. I'm fine.
You see what I mean? This is the type of person.
That's a guy that doesn't understand options that's going to get in trouble.
No. Yeah. Which is why I only sell cash secured puts. That's the one thing I know on the companies I love. That's it.
See, that's what I was going to say. When he mentioned that he didn't want to bring anything up about options, that's a great way to get into a stock. If you know, like, for example, you said if Tesla's going to drop below 150, you know that you can sell puts on it. And just, if you're going to enter the position anyway, you're either going to collect some premium or you're going to get the stock.
It's the easiest option strategy ever. It's the easiest option, or at least to understand it for beginners. Okay, so Chris, tell us what thing you did with Tesla, the debit spreads. Spreading
credit spread. So what I did was I bought the 150 call, and the way I usually do it, I usually just buy leaps, or I bought the 150 call and I sold the 200 call against it. So that this way I ended up just paying the spread cost on it. So when Tesla ended up going from $100 something to 200, right? I didn't get the full $50 in that spread, but what I did was it only cost me, I think, about $6 at the time. I ended up selling that position for almost $24, $26. So that's the kind of thing. Like, same thing with Meta. When Meta was down, it was like, okay, do I buy the option, but I pay all this money in premium? And especially if that premium is going to be decaying over time, do I want to be in a position like that, or do I want to go into the leap route where options price? If you look at options pricing, the closer options are to expiration, the more likely it is that you will actually lose money, because the Black-Scholes model will not give you fair pricing. But if you go long dated, like really far out, you can beat the market in options if you do long dated versus something that's more short-term in nature. Unless you're like trading with insider information or you've got some kind of like magic thing. In my opinion, in the long term, if you want to do options, leaps are the better way to do it because it gives you a lot of flexibility on timing as well. So, yeah.
Well, Bill, you still have the time premium built into it that if you ever did need to exit the position, it's still going to have some value, even if it's not near the strike price. So that's a safer bet if you're going long out, or, you know, if you're like one of those Wall Street bet guys that's, you know, day trading 0-day SPY, they're going to get burnt. Yeah, things like that. But you know what you're saying, once you understand it, it's a very viable and you know, logical position, especially if you believe in something for the long term. And like you said, if you wanted to enter Tesla at a 150 price, there's nothing wrong also with selling puts against it and then, you know, just seeing what happens. So either you collect some premium, and especially if you go further out, it's either going to pay you a nice premium or you're going to get the stock you wanted at the price you want.
Phil, how much of your portfolio is Tesla percentage-wise?
I would say probably about 10%, give or take.
Okay. And you are comfortable for the next 5-6 years holding on to those shares and not selling?
Sure.
Damn it. There's something I got to mention about spreads now. I mean, about leaps also. The one thing, be careful with leaps because the liquidity is not there in the leap. So you can get fucked on the bid and asking prices. That's the other thing. See, this is what I mean by options. This is why I don't like talking about it, because if I say, oh, leaps are a great way to get into a position, motherfuckers are going to go out there and buy a leap and then paid like shit ton in premium because it's not it's not traded heavily, you know. So you gotta factor those things in also.
It has to be a stock that has some volume. If you're buying a very low volume stock, you're going to get stuck with it.
Yeah, you should not trade options on these micro cap stocks. This is only for stocks that
you're saying no options on Ally.
No, ALYI.
ALY. Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, I've also been burnt, but anytime you go in profitable companies like Tesla, you go into Enphase, profit Apple, whatever, then I think there's money, easy money to be made. Let me put it this way: if you believe in the stock, because you can always sell, not buy. You can sell those puts, pick your price that you're willing to come into a stock, and if you never get it, well, you never get it. You weren't willing to you're not willing to put the buy-in order right now at a higher price, but you're willing to do it at a lower price. So you can just keep doing these longer 1 year, 2 year out puts and selling them and earning tens of percent, right? It's like 10, 20%, something like that in your money for safe companies. I would say for safer companies.
There's one question that I've always asked myself, and until I became a much better trader and I didn't understand, if we're so good with this kind of stuff, how come the big guys aren't doing this, right? And I'll give you the simple answer. Number one,
aren't?
No. Big guys don't like Warren Buffett is not going to do call options. Like he's not going to buy covered call. He's not going to do covered calls because their position sizes are so fucking big that to enter and exit a position would kill them. So a lot of times they would want to do it, but they won't. The only ones that they'll do options on is like the entire market, like SPY or the Dow itself. Like that's the only time that they'll do options. Other than that, I don't know too many slippage. I don't know too many big funds that are going to be doing options like that. Slippage is basically like the price that you pay for something, and then like because there is an illiquid market, you have to pay a premium for it, right? So it's something where something can get mispriced and you're paying extra that you didn't have to. And yeah, it's not good.
Phil, I want to ask you two questions. What is the market cap you see of Tesla in 2030? And second, what is the thing you're excited for them to talk about on earnings that doesn't have to do with like margins? Like what is the sort of long-term stuff you want, like Dojo or the bot or whatever, anything like that?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so two questions. What do you think the market cap of Tesla is in 2030? And second, what do you want to hear on the earnings call tomorrow that doesn't have to do with the automotive business, like Dojo or the bot or more advancements in FSD, things like that?
What I want to see on the earnings call is I want to see that I want to see some growth, and I want to see that they're still able to. I know that they're producing a lot more than they're able to sell. And I want to see that they're able to, meet the numbers where they're producing and they're selling are at the same amount. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
They're matching. They're selling, or they're ramping sales equivalent to the production.
Yes.
And the market cap in 2030, do you see it as like a $5-6 trillion company by then?
I don't see it being that high.
Really?
No.
You don't see Tesla as the most valuable company in the world at some point?
What's that?
You don't think, what do you think of this statement? Agree or disagree? Tesla will be the most valuable company in the world.
I disagree.
Wow. Okay. So 10% of your portfolio in a company you don't think will be the most valuable in the world.
Listen, I still think it's a great company. I don't think it's going to be the greatest company in the world. Which
didn't say greatest.
You said
have you heard of Palantir?
Oh God! Run, Phil. Run. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Okay, no. We're not gonna. Okay, so why don't you think Tesla will be the greatest company ever?
Because I think that a lot of the things that they're doing, I think are just there's only so much of a market share that they can get. Yes, they have things like automation. If they got into things like robo-taxi, I think that would be huge. But when you're comparing it to another company that has so much more outreach in other products and other areas, I just don't think the expandability is enough to the point where it would become the most valuable company in the world.
So then, which company will be the most valuable company in the world? Chris, you're muted.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I used to think the same thing as you felt for a long time about Tesla. Like, how much market share could they really do? Like, cars don't exactly have the greatest amount of turnover. Like, how is this going to be the most valuable company? Like, tell me one car company that ever became the most valuable car company on the planet. Like, never happened, right?
But Tesla is like a conglomerate, because what I like about Tesla and what got me bullish about them is that they're pushing into multiple verticals. So if you look at the traditional, like the GE, right? Like GE, when it first came out, it did nothing but light bulbs. And then it did the infrastructure around light bulbs. And then it did another division that did medical devices. And then another division that did turbines. And then another division that had defense contracts. So when I look at Tesla, if you look at it just as an auto company, you're absolutely right. Never going to be the most valuable company on the planet. Guaranteed, hands down, you're absolutely right. But if you take that hat off and you put it on and say, look, what is the ultimate goal that this company's trying to do? It's trying to do solar. It's trying to do energy storage. It's trying to do other things that are going to be grid scale that replace. Yeah, there's a lot of
AI.
things that they're doing, and it's almost like an ecosystem approach that they're now. If Tesla does not become the most valuable company, the reason why it won't become that is because they're likely to just spin off some of their divisions into their own separate operating companies. Like let's say right now, the energy market does really well, and there's a whole regulatory reason why they need to be separated out. That is what will happen, where they actually take the energy part, put it out and split it into to another company. But you would end up getting the benefit because you'll probably get proportional shares based on your ownership of Tesla. So this is typically what happens with companies. I think one day we could see a conglomerated version of Tesla, right? That's what I'm seeing.
The problem is, I think the guy saying it, Luke, is saying it, GE, people, the market does not like conglomerates. They don't value them properly. They don't know how to value them. So the way to get maximum value, and that was also a problem with eBay and PayPal. I don't know if you remember them, but they had to split. And it was better for investors that they split because PayPal took off. eBay also sort of took off, but it's stagnating. So if Tesla eventually is split off, I think that's how we get maximum value from like these different divisions. If it stays a conglomerate, like you're saying, I don't know, unless just the cash flows explode, which they might in FSD. So then that'll propel the stock to trillions. And then, Phil, you would have a massive bull case on your case, and your 10% become 50% of your portfolio.
Overnight, right?
I'm fine with that. But all of the things, Chris, all the things that you just mentioned are the things that Carlos was telling me about that got me on board with Tesla to begin with. At first, I saw it as, oh, it's just a car company that has, some extra buttons and things. And then he was,
and you didn't even like the Cybertruck. You're like, you hated it. You thought it was hideous. I was like, what?
No, I pre-ordered a Cybertruck because it's hideous. It's so hideous that I love it. But he was explaining to me, that they're going to eventually turn it into where your car can be a generator for your house. And I saw an article today that Tesla, installed their first solar roof somewhere in the Caribbean. So they are, they're expanding things. And I get it, where you could have a whole robo-taxi network where, let's say you're at work and, you need to pick up your kids from school. You can remotely send your car there, go and just pick up your kids and drive it back to you without anybody being there. All of these things are amazing things, and they will get there and do those things eventually. But even with those things, how big could they grow the company to the point that they're the most valuable company in the world, where they would have to be in every aspect of your life to get to that point?
So you don't see them as an Apple, basically?
No. And you know what? There's talk of Apple coming out with a car too. I don't know if that, how much of a competitor that would actually be, but they would be a big thorn in Tesla's side too, because Apple has just of a diehard following as Tesla does.
But Phil, you don't think the energy business is enough to get them to be the most valuable company in the world? Because we all use energy, right?
Of course.
I
don't think it would be big enough because you still have your traditional power grid, and you have to have the adoption for a lot of these things. So, people that live in non, like not everybody lives in California where it's worthwhile to put a Tesla solar roof on your house. But, I do see the benefit of things where if you were to put like some kind of a power wall and you could plug your car and let's say your power goes out and you don't need a generator, those things could be life-saving. And I do think that it would be a great, revenue stream for them. I just don't know if it would be a big enough revenue stream for them to be the biggest
but look,
in the world.
To Amit's point about Apple's an incredibly valuable company, and they don't have an outsized market share in almost any industry that they're in, right? They just have incredible margins. The other thing I would say is, every EV owner is a potential solar owner, right? Like if you don't have, if me and Vitaly didn't already have solar, now that you have the EV, you're like, maybe I'll go get solar. I know a lot of people that got Tesla solar because they had the Tesla. They weren't even considering solar before. And I know some people that had solar that then said, why don't I can charge my EV off this thing. So it's one of those things that once you get in the moat, it's an incredible upsells. I mean, and the price points that they're selling these things. I mean, it's like Apple's trying to sell you $1,000 phone. Tesla's selling you, $60,000 car, $30,000 system. So that also means less customers to deal with. So Apple, has a lot of customers to deal with for that $1,000 they got to deal with, to make $30,000, they have 30 potential customers that could be unhappy. Tesla has one.
Well, you know what would somebody be willing to spend, $60,000-$70,000 or whatever to redo their roof and put a Tesla solar roof on there to offset the cost of?
You can get traditional panels. You don't have to do a solar roof. You can just get traditional solar panels.
Yeah. What I like about Tesla, and especially Elon, is that in the sense of business, right? You always have a core focus that you start your business with, but then there are other opportunities that'll come up, and a good business will be able to capitalize on those and expand out and become bigger. Tesla's actually been able to do that. So if you look at like Amazon, the purpose of Amazon was to sell books online, but then it became, okay, it could sell other things. And then it was AWS. Like there was no such thing as AWS. So they capitalized on AWS. I see the very similar thing with Tesla. Like you never heard about Tesla heat pumps before like the last investor day, but now that's a segment that they're working on. One of the other things I like is that they take a lot of archaic existing things and actually just make them very, very efficient and much more cost compelling. So yeah, I think the solar roof thing right now is not cost compelling at all, but that's something that I'm thinking that Elon is probably working on to get that done. As solar becomes more affordable, the adoption curve goes up. So if you look at the last, I think what day was it that they call it was it an investor day? I don't know. It was whatever their last investor day. They actually spoke about that, where they actually brought up everyone. And by the way, they have freaking killers in terms of executives. If you listen to their executives, these are not like no-name people that are just like throwing like a rainbow up. Like you can tell. Like that's the one thing that I liked. Every person that spoke that day was a fucking killer. Like you could just tell that person is no joke. And Elon, as a CEO, does not tolerate any bullshit from the people below him. And he puts very radically young, but really dedicated people. So you don't have this bureaucratic bloat at Tesla either. The one thing I liked about that I liked recently was he saw the efficiency issues at Twitter and got rid of a lot of the people there. Now, yes, if you were an employee at Twitter, that sucks for you. I'm sorry. But if you look at America right now, a lot of organizations, they're not optimally operating right now because there's so much bloat in their operating structures. And Elon is not about that life. And so I think his company, the reason why he's able to dominate on so many fronts is because he knows how to run a business. I mean, this guy's a serial entrepreneur. It's hard to build $1 billion company. This guy's like $8 billion company at this point. So whatever magic he's got running in the background to develop these core businesses, I will put my money on.
People were saying he was already spread thin, and with the Twitter acquisition, and then last week he's like, "I'm starting an AI company." He's like, "Fuck it." And the other thing we haven't talked about, Phil, is, and I'm surprised you didn't mention this, is the supercharging network, man. Like as EVs continue to get adopted, you need to have more supercharge. Like even it's funny. My wife today went to. She just went down the block to this area that we normally go. And she's like, do you remember all these superchargers being here? Like they just popped a bunch of them up. They installed a whole bunch of them ahead of Coachella this weekend. Like that network is expanding, and that's a money printer. So now you've got like, what's the market cap of like ExxonMobil, right? That's an industry that they're coming in to disrupt. When you start thinking about all the pieces, they don't need to have 50% plus market share in any of them. They just need like 10, 15% in all of them. You know what I'm saying? And then so my next question would be is if they're not the most valuable company in 2030, which company is?
I have no prediction for that, but I mean, if I had to take some form of a guess, I would say Amazon.
Interesting. Wow, maybe this transitions us into what the chat wanted from Chris. Hold on, Chris. Phil, can you give us a 2-minute synopsis on why Amazon?
I didn't come prepared with a book report.
Okay, a 30-second synopsis.
Just because Amazon, it has, just like you were talking about how Elon is able to, trim the fat off of things and just cut things down. Amazon has mastered what they do. You know, there's no other company in the world that if you need a nut or a bolt of a specific size, that's getting it to your front door in a day if you needed it to. And they're branching out into other things as well. They have their streaming service that, you know, but they're in every aspect of life at this point. Where, you know, take for example, you have what's his name, Sam Bankman-Fried. That guy was, you know, flying private jets just to get his Amazon packages down to the Caribbean. It's become such an integral part of our life and the way we live now that I can't remember the last time that I've gone to a mall to buy something. It's easier to have it delivered, and they're just going to get even better at that. So they've already conquered everyday items that we use all the time. Their pricing is better. They have their web services. They're just going to keep expanding on it. And when, you know, they develop things like AI and they have, you know, they can eliminate all the warehouse workers and there's a robot doing that, that's just going to bring their margins way up for other things as well. But it's such an integral part of everybody's life at this point that I don't think any one of us could probably live without Amazon.
So Amazon, the reason why it's trading where it is today, unfortunately, is because they took a gamble on post-COVID being a lot more centric around people are going to be working from home all the time and all this other stuff. Now, some of that gamble, it wasn't technically a gamble. It's just that they front loaded a lot of their CapEx and OpEx. So they literally just built out the entire infrastructure that they would need for the next 5 years. There was just so much demand for their services that they just went crazy and just spent. They overbuilt. Now, this is where the opportunity lies as an investor, because if you look at their businesses, their revenue has done nothing but just go like this, but their stock price has gone down to pre-COVID levels.
Yep.
They've already built out the infrastructure, which means their CapEx going forward is going to be much, much lighter. On top of that, they're investing in their high margin businesses. Their ad revenue is growing like crazy, and that's much, much higher margin, right? Yeah. The other thing is AWS. AWS is still growing. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, it's slowing down. Yeah, because the law of numbers eventually is going to catch up to them, but they're still growing that. And even among AWS, like all the cloud services, they're developing their own chips. They're developing their own data centers. So they're actually gaining margin on AWS. If you look at Azure and GCP, even though they're great, like market share is going up 1 or 2 percentage points, in terms of operating cash flow, it's not generating the money. AWS, it's actually generating the money. And that's going to keep their business growing more and more. The other thing is Amazon now does a lot more of the fulfilling and just ends up charging the third-party fulfillment network, which some people have some negative opinions on. But once again, if you want to list your product on Amazon, you got to pay Amazon. You want to store with Amazon, you got to pay Amazon. You want to have it fulfilled by Amazon, you got to pay Amazon. The returns that come in, you got to take responsibilities. They've gotten to the point where now they are the quintessential monopoly in town. So now they can dictate prices. And yeah, I think if you look at, even from a leadership perspective, Andy Jassy ran AWS. Like I'm talking about, this guy fucking built AWS under Bezos and is his chief lieutenant for the last 20 years. I know a lot of people give him grief, like, oh, you know, Andy Jassy, blah, 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 new guy, he doesn't know how to do Amazon. No,
I'm sure he's not worried about it.
Yeah, this is the guy that you want to have like success. If the best way I could equate this is when Steve Jobs died and Tim Cook took over, a lot of people question, oh, is Tim Cook going to be the guy? Dude, Tim Cook is the reason why Apple is where it is. Steve Jobs, for all the stuff that he was really good with in terms of product development, if it wasn't for what do you call it? Tim, I keep calling. I was about to call him Tim Apple. If it wasn't for Tim Cook, none of what Steve Jobs could have gotten done. And it's the same thing with Bezos and Andy Jassy. So I think Andy Jassy he's literally another Tim Apple. So I would say if there's a bet that I would make on any of the bigger companies right now, especially the what are they called, the FANG names, I would say Amazon is the best one to put your money.
Well, and there are other ways that they haven't even figured out how to monetize yet, like Alexa. Alexa for them is a losing proposition. They lose a ton of money on Alexa. They've put a ton of money into it and they haven't gotten that return because most of the time people just use Alexa, tell me what the weather is or, tell me a joke. They're not using it to order things the way they were expecting when they developed Alexa. So if they can, Alexa devices are, I've got 4 or 5 of them in my house alone and they're super cheap. So if they can find a way to monetize that more, they'd be able to generate a lot more revenue because it makes the process even simpler than it is to get those things in a day. But they haven't figured out how to do that yet.
There's one last thing about Amazon. Unlike the other big names, they don't have nearly as many problems regulatorily, other than the labor unions, which have taken them a few times to the courts.
But they're going to automate their way out of that. Like that's, yeah. They're like, okay.
If you look at every other name, Google is getting its ass handed to it by regulators saying you guys have a monopoly on market share of search, so we're going to come after you. Like the other day, someone came after Google with that. Facebook and Meta, I love that company to death. They're really good, but once again, it's like, oh, how much is Facebook destroying society? We have to get after them. Microsoft, with their whole fucking bundling regime that they've brought back to become another monopoly again, people are looking closely at Microsoft saying, hey, they're doing all this shit with OpenAI and all this other stuff. How can we regulate Microsoft to slow them down? Amazon is the only one not getting hit with regulatory burden right now. That's the other thing that's going to let them grow much faster than the other guys.
Dex Invictus also made a good point in the chat that Amazon is also getting into healthcare with delivering prescriptions. That's huge. That's huge. Yeah. Especially that's a big deal because
for consumers, for consumers, I was looking at the prices because my wife's a pharmacist, so I was showing her the price. She's like, "That's crazy. That's freaking great that now they can take all these generics and just deliver them right to your house. They can have the doctors send the prescription right to Amazon and get fulfilled by Amazon, right?"
Well, I think Phil's a dentist. Do you use any of those services?
Do I order prescriptions through Amazon?
No, do you offer those on the other end? Do you use those services or do you offer those services to your clients?
Which services?
The prescription services. Do you use any of those like digital services to offer your clients?
I use e-prescriptions. And I guess I've never had anybody tell me that they want to have it filled by Amazon, but I do use e-prescription and I'll send it electronically to whatever their local pharmacy is. But I suppose I could send it if that's how they want to get it filled. I wouldn't know how to do it, but I'm sure it can be done that you send it into Amazon and have them fill it once they get into prescriptions.
Well, I wasn't aware how that works, how much control you as the service provider has over that last mile delivery.
I just, when I give somebody a prescription and I electronically fill it, they just tell me where they want me to send it. So they'll give me the name and the address of their pharmacy and then I can do it that way. Like I said, I've never had anybody ask me to fill one through Amazon prescriptions, but I would assume it works the same way. You just have to have some kind of an address or input to put in as this is where you're sending the prescription. It would work the same way.
Can I get an order of Adderall, please?
No, you don't need Adderall. No.
Bill, how many root canals do you do a week?
This is shit, dude. Amit, I don't know if you watch. Amit was suffering. Amit had a root canal. His tooth was.
He's the root canal king.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm gonna go in a week. I was like, bro, call my boy, go down there, drill him, fill him, bill him.
Wait, Phil's in Jersey?
Yeah, he's in Jersey.
Oh, I didn't know you were in Jersey. You're the Jersey Phil.
This is the one I was telling you about on the podcast. I was saying, go to him, let him drill your face off, and
you're in Jersey,
so you can buy Tesla options.
Phil, do you put on some
Tesla stock with that?
Yeah. So, how many root canals do you do a week?
I mean, it varies by who's in pain or who needs it, but I would say, on average, 10, 12.
The week after Easter,
every week is different.
The week after Easter, our kids coming in mouth destroyed.
Okay, Phil, guys, let's get some questions in the chat. Phil, quick thoughts on a company called Palantir. Do you like them? Bullish? Let me mute the rest of these guys.
Can I take the Fifth Amendment on that one?
No, I just want your thoughts, your basic thoughts on Palantir, if you have any thoughts.
I mean, I honestly, I don't know too much about them. From what I've heard and understand, they're a spy scam company, but so I don't. I'll stay away.
So you let your freaking friend say all.
What happened?
You let him fill him. You let Carlos fill you with all the propaganda about Palantir, basically.
No, I was reading up on it a little bit on my own, but
From the Vice articles, that's what I'm assuming. That
I'm not too into that one.
What's funny about you, Amit, with Palantir is like every time I try to make, say, a philosophical case for Palantir, you're like, no, they're not that profitable once they get into commercial, blah blah blah. And then when I make a case that they're not making any money, you switch the argument to some philosophical thing. So it's
what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I know they're not profitable. Well, first of all, they are profitable, and I know. So I don't get what you're talking about.
No, what I'm saying is, if I make a philosophical case for them as like a bad actor, then
no, because you're wrong about that. That's why.
Are they a spy company? Like
they absolutely are a spy company. But
that's what
my
I
point
heard.
is that if I make a philosophical argument against Palantir, no matter how profitable they are, I have a philosophical a problem investing in that company. You tell me about how much money they're going to make, and AI is going to be this great thing. But then if I say, well, they're not making any money, and I don't, and why aren't they shooting?
Carlos, let me just say, you
make a philosophical argument.
You are un-American for your take on Palantir. I will put that out. For as patriotic as you are, if you are the type of person that doesn't want Google to take up the Maven contract because you believe in whatever you believe in, which is not American, that's for sure. So go ahead, that's what you can believe in that. But
no, I believe in privacy, and I believe, and I don't believe anything Carp says.
Okay, that's fair. What do you guys think about Tesla live streaming earnings on Twitter?
Smart, yeah. You want to grow the business of Twitter? Why not?
Yeah, cross-platform, sure.
Yeah.
How many people do you think are going to be on that Spaces? That might be like a couple million people.
A lot.
Ton of people are going to be on that Spaces. I actually I've found myself just organically using Twitter more. Like initially it was a lot of, just seeing a lot of Elon. He was sort of pumping it up, but I am actually seeing a lot more engagement. And I don't know if you guys saw, but Freelancer Finance is now verified. We got the blue check.
You're paying $8 a month?
Paid for it?
Yeah, I did we did the
Not
year.
Me. I made him pay it.
No, he didn't make me pay nothing. He sent me a text the next day. Yo, I changed the Twitter password. There was some hack.
I thought we got hacked.
It was me.
I'm like, yo, what is this blue check mark shit? We got hacked.
No, so now we have now we can actually upload some videos there. We're going to be testing out the subscriber thing, doing some of the Spaces. Like people commented yesterday that we should do more. Just like more one-on-ones or just audio only dialogues with some of the people. We'll be doing it on Twitter, and then we'll eventually move some of the stuff to Spaces. I'm just really curious to be one of the first that adopts it and sees. But so far, I like it. I do see more engagement on our tweets, and they have this feature where what is it called? What did he say?
No, but that was just being a dick. He's just being stupid. Wait, do you think Twitter Spaces are going to crash? Do you think tomorrow? Like, I feel like
crash? No, I don't think it'll crash.
Because
wait, you need a minimum of 10K followers for subscribers?
No, you need 500
to subscribe.
You need 500 people to be able to offer subscription. So right now we have like 300 and something. We need like 150 more.
Maybe in Canada, Kelly, they just don't have subscribers yet. But
well, let's push it right here, guys. If you haven't subscribed to our Freelancer Finance Twitter, Amit will have a link. Let's get us to 500 so we can monetize you.
500. We'll open that up, and then we'll actually start providing some more of that. I'm just really curious.
It's in the description, but I just put it in the chat as well. If you guys
and we'll talk about options. We have no problem.
No problem. We'll talk about options all day. If you guys subscribe.
No problem.
But
Phil, any thoughts on office REITs by any chance? Because I'm looking at the sector, and I'm actually going in pretty heavy in office REITs. It's an unloved. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. No. It's an unloved sector, and I think a lot of people are missing like some really big opportunities in the office REITs because they're looking at it like generally and saying, oh my God, office REITs, like they're going to have all this mountain of debt coming their way. How are they going to do it? Everyone's going to work from home forever. And I'm just like, yeah, that's not the trend that I'm seeing. And also, if you look at the asset classes among the REITs, there's material difference between people owning fucking strip malls that are half empty versus office buildings that right now are all these corporations are pushing their workers to get back to work. So I don't know. Or have you looked into the sector at all?
I invested in a couple of REITs a while back. The only reason I ever really liked them was because they usually pay a hefty dividend because they have to give like a certain percentage of
90%, 90% of their operating cash flow. Yeah.
So for the most part, it was purely a dividend play where none of them really actually went up too much, where it was more just a straight dividend play. Is that what you're doing it for? Just for the dividends?
Yes and no, but this is the one time where I'm seeing great dividends and then on top of it capital appreciation because the assets that are underlying a lot of people have just written them off saying, oh, you know what? This is not really worth it. They've got too much debt, blah, blah, blah. So now they've actually been able to maintain their yield. And at the same time, the stock price is really fucking low for what the assets are actually worth.
But is the stock price declining? Because when I was
declined 70%. Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. It declined 70%, more 70, actually almost 80%. Yeah.
That's why. And I've never been a fan of REITs for that reason, because it's a trade-off. The dividend goes like this, the stock price goes like that. So at the end of the day, you usually end up with somewhere near a wash. And I don't like to stick around for that, just, for the dividend when the underlying asset is going to go down. Personally,
that's the
opposite investing to Chris. He likes when it goes down.
If the underlying asset is good and it's going to appreciate in value, like he said, where you're going to collect the divvy and the asset itself is going to appreciate as well, sure, I would have nothing against it. But from my experience with REITs, that's usually the case, where they're paying out all those dividends. So you collect the dividend, but the underlying asset ends up going down and offsetting whatever.
Well, let me point out one that's been going up for 30 years. Oh, that's a pretty popular one. Mm-hmm. You know, the ticker symbol O? Yes?
Me?
Yes, you.
Do I know the ticker O?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, well, it's the most popular REIT. For 30 years, it's been going up and increasing their dividends. One of the best REITs to buy into. So REITs are good depending on what you buy. And I think I think Chris is actually buying into a quality one. But yes, you're right. If you're not careful, then
if the underlying asset's good,
you get the crisscross here happening all the time.
Yeah.
I do have a question for Phil, because a lot of the people watching know what industries we're in. How would you say your portfolio is divided up into terms of what industries you're investing in and like allocation size? Because look, just so you guys know, Phil was the guy that bought Halliburton, you know what I mean? When 9/11 happened, and he was I remember when we first started talking again, he was like, bro, I just keep selling options on this. I want someone to take these freaking shares from me.
Nobody wants,
but he just never sells. So I'm really curious what your portfolio allocation now is. If Tesla's 10%.
The way I have my portfolio divided up, I have it broken up into multiple sectors. So I would say my portfolio is somewhat balanced. I have your tech stocks. I have my number one position is probably Apple. And it's just been like that for years, and it's been, growing nonstop, steadily and slowly. So I'm perfectly okay with leaving it there. But I also have your Microsoft. I have your more spec, like your Tesla was. It's, more stable now. Yeah. But I have a large percentage in financials as well, like MasterCard, and I think MasterCard.
MasterCard, Visa. You were screaming those from the.
And do you see what happened to it? Yeah. MasterCard has just been going up. It was going up nonstop. And I think now that everybody's starting to run out of cash, inflation is so high, people are just going to be racking up debt on those credit cards.
I think it's the highest. We have record debt right now, the record credit card debt specifically.
Yeah. So I have the financial. So I have MasterCard, Visa, Amex. I have some in Boeing. Which I've had for
which was the worst thing you ever told? The worst advice. It wasn't your fault, but he told me, yo, we got Boeing, the dividend, all this stuff. We buy it, and the 777 crash. I am still underwater on that.
No. I bought Boeing when they had the engine fire in the 777, and since then I'm way up on that. How are you?
I bought it. We bought it. You were telling me about it before. I remember buying it. I think it was 2018, 2017. And now I'm on the water on it. It was like 300 something a share. It dropped down to 90. I mean, this thing cratered. And I think I'm still underwater on it, or I might have actually sold out of it. I have to go back and check. But that was whatever. You've given me some good tips. So
here's a tip that
they can't all be home runs.
They can't all be home runs. I know.
And listen, it's Boeing. It's not like, I told you to buy, something ridiculous.
Here's one that I can give you that's a good tip. Looking for anything that involved with GLP-1 medications. If you ask, and I'm sure you have friends that are endocrinologists, GLP-1 meds are freaking gangbusters right now. Everyone and their mother is probably just going out there getting them. The two biggest beneficiaries are Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly is going to be coming out with a new drug, but the clinical indication is going to be specific for weight loss. And if you look at 48% of Americans right now, they're obese. They're bordering on some,
whatever it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would say look at plays around that. The one that has netted me 100% return, and I know all of you guys made fun of me, was Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers just recently got into that space by offering services around like almost like a telehealth visit, where you would go do telehealth visit with a provider that's able to prescribe you these GLP-1 medications, right? And then combine that with their lifestyle modification, the behavior and lifestyle modifications. So it creates like a potent combo therapy for weight loss. And if you look at where Weight Watchers is right now in terms of market cap, it's super, super low considering where they were just a few years ago. And their subscribers have gone down, but not nearly as much. I'm telling you, Weight Watchers is the one that you guys got to watch out for. That's like that's the hidden stock that's going to do very well.
And that gets clipped out and put up as a YouTube short.
and then Weight Watchers tanks, and then Chris feels bad for telling everyone to get into Weight Watchers.
Right.
No. Listen, wait. We should have sold puts. Do your research on Weight Watchers.
When they lose all their money, they'll be depressed. They won't be able to afford food, so they'll lose weight.
Wow.
Oh, throwing shade at Chris.
Right. And when they make money, they'll be just carrying all that money around. It's exercise.
It's like lifting weights.
Yeah.
Right, so you want to end us with a couple of questions?
Yeah, we got to go in like 10 minutes.
I do want to say one thing though, with the e-prescriptions, where you're saying that you could just teledoc into somebody. They're really starting to crack down on that. I know. I've gotten a couple of notifications that they're really they're starting with controlled substances. So for now, you cannot get controlled substances, or they're going to change it. You can't get those things just by having a teledoc visit anymore. You have to have physically gone and seen the physician in person before they can issue you that prescription. So they are starting to crack down on a lot of those, teledoc online things.
Right.
Okay. So we'll get into questions, but real quick, can everyone give us their final predictions for Tesla earnings tomorrow, including if you think the stock tanks or any specific numbers you want to give? Carlos, anything?
It definitely tanks. I absolutely think it tanks. I think in margins 18 to 21%, which is I think the only number that Wall Street cares about. They don't care
anything
about
under 20. Straight
anything
down.
under 20, and it's going to drop like a stone. But I think we might see 18%. That's why I'm so curious to see if they've been able to lower costs, if all the ramp up in Texas, ramp up in Berlin has given them some economies of scale and they've been able to lower costs. If that happens, we might see a surprise bump. But in either case, I want to see it tank. So I'm kind of hoping that
pick up more.
I'm kind of hoping we get a buying opportunity. But I just think that
Tesla's like Apple in 2009, something like that. 2010.
The winds, it's just not in their favor right now.
I'm saying it's around that time when nobody knew if the iPhone would be successful, and there was articles. Me and Carlos looked at some of this.
Yeah.
Oh, BlackBerry's coming out with their new whatever it was called, and people were discussing like this is going to win because now they have a keyboard and a touch screen. Okay, so
right.
So it's
the consensus isn't there that Tesla is the clear winner.
As soon as the consensus is there, that's when you have to sell. So at this point, there's no consensus. It's probably a good time to be dollar cost averaging into Tesla.
So long story short, I think it's all about margins, and I think it's going to tank.
Oh, Verizon. I actually bought more Verizon. I love their dividends. If that guy was mentioning that.
Thick cheeks. I agree with you. Tesla below 180 is a good price.
Okay, I think that's pretty much it for us. There is an article today that said Nvidia is going to 355.
Wait, but what about you? What do you think Tesla's going to happen, Chris? What do you think is going to happen?
Chris, go ahead.
I'm in the same boat as you guys. I think their margins are going to get compressed. Year over year is a tough comp, so their sales numbers are not going to look nearly as appetizing. Hopefully Elon, for the bulls, hopefully Elon comes out and says something really positive. So I think we're going to get a repeat of Netflix, where basically based on raw numbers, the market is going to punish them. And then the CEO comes out and says some positive things. Then you're going to see like some waffling, and then it probably goes back to where it's trading at right now. So in terms of where Tesla ends up, I think it might end up pretty flat on the day. So did
he say he's going to be on the call?
I don't know.
He said he's only going to be on future calls if there's an important announcement. Otherwise, he might not be on the call at all.
Really? I think if it's a Twitter Spaces, I think he's going to be on the call.
Yeah, he's gonna need to push people to Twitter Spaces.
True.
Yeah,
okay.
He's going to get people on the call.
Yeah, he did say that.
He ain't stupid. He ain't stupid. He's pushing people over there. I think
right.
it was actually GS Strategies wrote me. I see him in the comments. He wrote me. He wanted to have a discussion about real estate because we were talking about it a couple of days ago or something.
Yeah.
Maybe we have him on another episode, and then we just discuss some real estate stuff in this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, your other guy doesn't Matt Money?
Matt Money? Also does real estate. Yeah, we can have both of them on, talk more real estate stuff.
This will be a pretty crowded looking screen.
Gabe, how's that? How's that? In
Well, I'll be like,
that's what junkies do. That's what junkies do. The first one's free. You just keep coming back for that daily fix. You see how I work the name of the show?
So GS, why don't you work it out with Amit, since he likes to hit that mute button and shit? So you work it out with him.
All right.
Thanks for
We're
coming
start
on,
calling
Phil.
you. We're gonna start calling you a mute.
Good. Yes. Sometimes we need to get you guys to shut the fuck up. Anyway, this is good. Phil, thank you for coming on, man. It was awesome.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
But we are gonna do this. We are gonna do this again tomorrow once we actually have the numbers, right?
Hey, listen, if you have some stock picks, send them our way. I'd love to do some research on some big names because you seem like you've got certain stock picking Midas touches of your own.
Bro, he comes out. Here's the thing about Phil, like, and you should talk about this. He just comes out with some crazy off the wall shit that you wouldn't even think but then he'll send you articles that it's like all these breadcrumbs. I think Phil enjoys being like a detective and like reading between the lines and news and data. So I get these like weird pictures from him sometimes, like taking pictures of something on Yahoo and he like underlines it and he's like, look, 15% pop Friday, and the fucking thing pops, you know.
But that's what works for me. That's why I was telling you, I don't look at charts and moving averages and things like that, because over the years I've developed my own process. And
what is that process? Like,
I don't know. I can't explain it. Like, hey,
I got the Midas touch. That's it.
It's the same process that I
send you. It's those things that I read, and that's it.
It's the same process that I use too. Sometimes I'm looking at a company. No, I mean, Vitaly, think about how many times, like when Meta was down, I was like, you're going to see a TikTok ban coming our way because there's legislation, all the talk that's happening. So a lot of people were like, oh, there's no TikTok ban. I've never heard about it. But if you looked at it in the news, there was a lot of news and research that was pushing for this to happen. So yeah, it's just one of those things that not everything is in the charts. Not everything is in the 10Ks. You got to look outside of that. Look at the fucking world and find out what's happening.
Like but the way you knew Meta was undervalued was strictly in the charts and in the PE.
No, that's what.
So if you just look at those numbers and you're like, Meta at a 10 PE, that's idiotic.
Yeah, okay? But the thing is that is what piqued my interest in the company initially. But then it was like, okay, what's the bull case for them, right? That's what ended up happening. And that's what led me to a lot of the information that we had on it. So that's what typically happens. You'll see for me, my process is I look at a company, it's either fallen off real steeply, right? So it makes me research, why did this company fall off? Like, are there any underlying issues that had that happen? Okay. And then other things are, if I see things in my personal life or my personal day-to-day stuff where I'm working with a company, because I work in the healthcare space and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, talk to me more about this specific thing. And then it's like, so everyone's got different ways to do their research and find what's undervalued and what's not. So for me, I'm not like the typical guy also. I will use the charts to lead me to the pony, but in order for me to get on it, I'm going to do the research to actually go and look it up on Google, Yahoo, whoever, on what is going on with the company. And then I'll listen to their last quarter and then I'll look at their 10K, and that's the way that I process my research,
Yeah,
so
I too find it based on interests, of course. But
I'll answer this Verizon thing because at least 2 a.m. is talking about Verizon. I actually recently bought Verizon like 2 days ago. But, and they do pay almost a 7% dividend, by the way. It's kind of crazy. And on top of it, it's one of the lowest it's been in, I think, like 5 to 10 years, like the actual stock price. So if you were to dollar cost into Verizon, dare I say it, this is the time to look at Verizon.
Chris, are SLG earnings after hours or before hours tomorrow? Do you know?
I think the numbers come out at 2:00. I have to look it up. And then like the meeting is, I think, the next day or something. I don't know. I have to look at what their thing is.
Okay. All right, Phil, any last words?
Nice seeing you all. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thank you for being on. Thank you for joining us.
Fuck off by tomorrow.
What's that?
We'll definitely have you on again. What do you
say, cursing us out tomorrow?
I'll be cursing us out tomorrow.
Why?
No, I'm just saying because like you're real formal. Like, hey, thanks for having us on. It's like, screw you guys.
What am I supposed to say?
Screw you guys.
Yeah, you obviously have not seen this podcast.
I know.
Buy some Weight Watchers.
It's real degenerate.
Buy some Weight Watchers, Phil.
Join
me in Weight Watchers?
Vitaly, do you strictly invest in things just for the dividend?
I have a dividend portfolio where
Have you ever looked into IEP?
No, what is that?
Icon Enterprises,
Carl
right?
Icon?
Yeah.
Oh, Carl Icon. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I have
It
not.
pays like a 15, 16% dividend, and the stock has been like rock solid. Look at the stock price. It moves like $4 up and down. It just keeps oscillating back and forth, but it's paying like a 15%.
Yeah,
dividend.
I treat the dividends like cash. So obviously I like getting the dividend payments, but then recently we didn't talk about this. Maybe you come on another episode, Enphase, which I'm a big bull on, and I'm surprised Carlos did not tell you.
There were questions. We talked about a lot.
All right. But the reason I bring it up is because like I don't think you have the full picture of what's going on with energy. And I didn't bring this up because you guys were chatting, but if you look at the whole picture of what's going on with energy and why Tesla will reach those multi-trillions, it's because of energy. And so Enphase is part of that story. But I started selling dividends to buy more Enphase. So that's why I keep those dividends in case I want to buy a good growth company that's down.
It's like a piggy bank to you.
It's a piggy bank. I treat it like cash, but I'm getting roughly a 5% aggregate somewhere around there in terms of on my money, which to me is fine. I don't need every single dollar to be just rocketing up. If something good presents itself, like Enphase was presenting itself under $200, I go a bit heavier and I sell some of these dividends,
All right. That's it for us. Thank you all, everyone, for joining. Everyone's links in the description. We'll have Phil on again another day for a different topic, different episode. And
tomorrow, Tesla earnings. That was
and before, please hit like and subscribe, everybody here. I think a couple of people help us out, like Fudbucker, that just hit like and subscribe.
Yeah. And again, find us on Twitter. Find us on Twitter.
Follow them on Twitter so we can subscribe to them. And they need 500 followers, and then we'll subscribe. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you.
What time is Tesla earnings tomorrow? And are you doing a live stream? Are you doing a live stream?
I wasn't gonna go live. I mean, these guys, I don't think they can come at that time.
I don't think I can, but I definitely want to talk about it tomorrow. That was the whole point of getting Phil.
Yeah.
Was trying to get Phil. I thought it was today for some reason. I thought Netflix and Tesla were on the same day.
Okay, so we'll recap it all tomorrow after.
All right, sounds good. Take care.
See you guys. Thank you. Good night. Bye.